when we last left, we had begun the process of pulling open the meta file for our texture so that we could rename these little sprite slices to whatever we wanted. And actually, if you haven't seen part 1 and 2, you might want to do that because we're continuing that. Something that I realized I hadn't done. Let's put this into practice and see what happens. So say we want to rename this one, this roguelike items _0, and we wanted to use the meta file. So we should prove that this actually works. So here is that meta file. So if I come up here and say I want to rename that to, I guess that was a ring. Let's just rename it to ring. So I'll rename it here, and then there is another one down here. And see, I don't want it to start searching right there. I want it to search down here. You can already see some of them. 2, 1, there's 0. So then I would call that ring. So now if our theory is correct, I should be able to save that, come back in here, and it gets renamed to ring. Beautiful. So it seems to work correctly. But now watch this. If I mess up a space, save that, watch what happens. Oh no, I can't parse it. So we're going to have to be careful with the spaces. We're going to have to be real careful with these spaces that it's adding. Apparently any change in that set of spaces and it goes crazy. It does not like that. So we have proven that indeed you can rename stuff in the meta file and it changes the name of that sprite. As a matter of fact, we go into the sprite editor and we could see that this one is now called ring. Such a lovely thing, a ring. So now what we want to do is basically create a regular expression that looks for this type of pattern. So in order to do that, what we'll do is we'll start by creating what I would call, we'll call this a file ID. So we'll say static regex, and that's going to be, if I spell it right, not x, that's going to be in regular expressions. We'll call it file ID. That equals new regex, and I'm going to do an ampersand, or I'm an @ sign to indicate these are going to be literals. And we've got to put something in here. So it's something, something, something. So we have this. Matter of fact, let's grab this, and we need a place where we can play to see what we want to put in here and make sure it works before we actually run it, right? So we'll do that. I've got this lovely website pulled up, and there are others, but we'll use this one. I'm going to give it some input here. So now we want it to basically just match these, and I guess we should we can grab this other stuff too, just to be complete, if you will. Okay, so what should our pattern be? Well, we need to grab this ID, and that looks like that's going to be something like a D plus, right? We want to capture it though, so we'll put parentheses around it. And additionally, we see that we have a colon with no space, so we'll do that too. So now we've got this, and it looks like we have a /s. I'll say /s plus to grab that space, and then we have, what would we say here? Let's just say, because if we did /w plus, see, maybe we do get that. So let's see what we have captured here. Table. Yeah, that looks like that works. So that's lovely and simple. But what if they were to change this spacing? Well, this is pretty simple. That's probably going to be 1. I'm not sure how many spaces this is. Let's grab those spaces too. /s plus. Let's capture that. So additionally, what we can do with .NET is we can tell so we've got capture groups here. If you haven't messed with the regular expressions, the parentheses say to capture whatever this is, and you can see them right here. The $1 is that first capture, the $2 is that first grouped capture, this $3 is the third group capture. We can name these little fellows so that we can just pull them out easily whenever we do a regular expression match. So let's do that. Let's call this, and I'll show you the syntax for that. That's easy. It's just a question mark and a less than sign and then a greater than sign, and we put whatever we want to call it in here. Let's call this pre-space. So now you'll see this is called $pre-space. That's exactly what I want. And then this would be, I'd call this the ID. So let's just call this ID. This one obviously is going to be called name. See what we get. So there's our regular expression for the file ID. In addition, we will need another regular expression for the slice. I call it a slice name. That's going to be, let's go back to the meta file. That will be, let's do this. That will be this. Simply that. Fairly simple, yes. So we should be able to come up with something fairly easy. Let's grab a couple of these lines, chuck it in here, and let's see what we can do here. So first of all, we still want that pre-space. So let me actually undo that. We still want the pre-space. Yes. That's interesting. Very interesting. Pre-space, and then we will obviously you see there is a actual name tag there, so we can just put that in verbatim. Then we can say we can actually add the space there like that if we want. Maybe we'll just do that, and then we'll do the same as we did before and do this at name capture, which would be /w plus. So we should get two of those. Let's look and make sure what those look like. Pre-space and the name. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So let's add that in there, and then I think we're ready. So what do we want to do? We have our rename map, and we have our lines here. What we'll do is we'll make a match, basically a pointer to a match class. We'll start it to be null. And what we want to check first, since we're going to be in the, is m equals, let's see about the file ID, dot match. And the string input is going to be line. And since we put this in parentheses, we can check to see if it's successful. I need another parenthesis right here, parent, another parent. So if that matches, then we have a possible replacement. Let's make a replacement string, and we'll just set it to string.empty for now. We'll use this. What we'll do is, so if we have matched a file ID, we'll come in and we know now that our match worked, our regular expression for the file ID worked. And so then we'll try to find that name in our rename map, right? So we'll say if rename map, we'll say try get value. And then that's going to be the match. We want to look in the groups, and since we named the group, we named it name. That's the name of the group we want. And then we can just say dot value. That'll give us the string representation of that group. So if that, and then we want to find out what we want to rename it with, and we'll use the replacement variable for that. So if that's the case, if it actually matches, then what we'll do is we will say string builder. We want to append, we want to append a line, and that line will look like the following, and we'll do another string interpolation, which will be nice. We'll say we want m.groups pre-space. Remember that one? We want to grab those spaces at the beginning. Dot value. So we'll add that, and then we'll say name colon and then one space, and then the replacement. So we're going to just append that line like that because we want to replace it. Otherwise, just append the line. Otherwise, else if, so let's check now to see if that name match, the slice name, matches. So it's going to be similar to this. So let me grab this and we'll just change the regular expression we're using to slice name. So if that matches, we're going to do the same kind of thing, and we'll say, I'm just going to grab this again. If rename map, so basically we're looking up that map, the name again, in the rename map to see if it needs to be renamed. And I'm going to grab this and do another copy paste here. So we've got the pre-space again. And I messed that up, didn't I? Because that actually, yeah, I'm sorry. I did the name first. This one should be down here. This one's right. And then this else function will come down here. So they're going to look remarkably similar. But this one, we remember we have an ID. We did the ID and everything. So we may need to make it look like this instead. Sorry. There's still going to be the pre-space. And then we're going to have the ID, which will be m.groups of ID .value. Now, that should be what we want. So if any of these is a success, that means we need to check and see if there's a replacement. If there is, replace it and append that to our string, our new meta file. Otherwise, check and see if the rename map regular expression works. And then if none of that happens, then we're just going to append the line. Right? Okay. And of course we have a bit of an issue right here is we have this rename sprites action, and we have this new name kind of set here to good, but again we'll get to that. We'll get to that. First we want to make sure that this actually works. So the question is, do we have enough to test this? Well, let's check and see. Any compile errors? No. Okay, good. Let's rename these, so we should get a test. Okay. So let's check it. I bet the lines are messed up. Those look right. Yeah, Yes, I want to save that. Oops, I didn't mean to close it. I didn't mean to close it. Let's reopen it. So I undid what we did, so it should come back. Yeah, it just came back. Cool. So what actually probably happened is, and what I wasn't sure about, is that we probably need to say append line. So we need the new lines. It must take the new lines out whenever it does this read lines. So we'll see. Let's see if that fixes our issue. See if we can actually rename some of these little fellas. So let's do 1 through 10. Okay, that works, except it looks like we're not incrementing that at all. So I'm going to undo that, save it again, and go back here. And this needs to be incremented. Now let's see what happens. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Renamed. That's exactly what we want. So what happens if we rename one? We should just get a just good, period. And it is. Okay, cool. So that appears to be manipulating our meta file correctly. Now, the next thing we need to do, and that's going to be the next episode, we'll come up with a way to create a nice UI that perhaps we can right click, do that, test or whatever, and then we'll have a UI pop up here that will allow us to select the name we want to have for our renamed Sprite items. Until then, we'll see you.